Hello, Dark Sniper here. So we're going to revisit our lighting tutorial and we're going to go back to our simple rooms here. A couple things I want to adjust before we begin. I don't like this pass-through in its current configuration, so let's change it. I'm going to left click on this floor to select it, then I'm going to right click and make texture current. That's a benefit of some of the updates we've had, and you may not be aware of it. And what that does is that selects that texture, makes it available for me to use. And I'm going to place it right here, right click, apply. And then I'm going to select all three, holding down control, right click, surface properties, alignment, align to floor. And that aligns us pretty good. All right. Let's choose this texture, right click, make texture current, select the walls, apply. I'm going to right click and select surfaces by matching texture, wall direction, wall band. I'm going to come up here, right click, make texture current, apply. We can do the same. Align to floor. So there we go. Now OCD accounted for. Let's rebuild, and yeah, I think it looks better. All right, so we're back to the lighting. Oh, before we get to the lighting, one more thing. You remember the groups? If we have our groups open, we can select our brush, but there's one thing I want to make you aware of. If I go ahead and select all actors in the group, since we duplicated this from a group, it added the new brushes to that same group. If you want to isolate your original base room, then you need to shift click these and then say remove, delete selected actors from group. And now if we select actors in the group, it's only going to select our base room. So we can duplicate it over and over. But every time we do, we need to remove those from the group. Okay. Now to the lighting. So here we have our lighting, and we looked at just changing the color simply, and that's a good beginning, but that's just the beginning. If we double click our light and go to its properties, we see so much in here. One, we can change the draw scale of our light. Right now it's set to 1. If we want to get it out of the way, we can put it to 0.5, make it smaller. If we were making a corona or something, this would be important because the corona's size is determined by the draw scale of the light. If we're in a large outdoor area and you want to be able to see your lights rather easily, draw scale, we could change it to something like 5 and make it big. That way old eyes could find it easier. For right now, we'll leave it at the default. We have light color, which we looked at. And we also want to recognize that not only do we have light brightness, but we have light hue and light saturation. So the light hue determines the color of the light, and the saturation determines the depth of that color, but it also determines how the color affects the textures. Under lighting, we have some various commands that we can input here. We have the lens flare and the corona for those two options. We have special lit. We have light effect, and under light effect, you'll find that there are multiple things we can use. Some of them work, some of them not so well. And then we have light type, and this is where you get your pulses, your flickers, your strobes. And on strobes and flickers and pulses, it's come to my understanding here lately that some people have a hard time with those when they're playing games because of seizures and whatnot. So I've tended to adopt a pose of not using them very, very often. Or if I do, I use it in a very limited way, just to be kind or considerate to them. So, all right. One of my favorite things to do in building levels is making lighting and trying to make it seem realistic. So here we are, we're using the Nolly cast texture package, and I thought, let's try to build a window to cast light into this room rather than, putting up a light fixture or a torch or whatever. Let's try adding a window, and the window would be the natural light coming in. So in the Nolly cast texture pack, here are the selections, and I think I'm going to go with this one. It's 128 by 128. So let's do that. Let's grab a brush. We're going to make it 128 by 128 and 16 deep. There we have it. So let's grab it. Look at that. It doesn't want to sit on the grid. Don't you hate that? Oh, don't worry. Just right click on one of the corners and it connects back to the grid. Now let's position it. Actually, I don't want it on that wall. Let's put it on this wall. Let's position it, holding down both mouse buttons and holding the control and then dragging up, or left and right, holding down the left mouse button and control. I think that looks good. We'll place one right there and we'll hit the subtract button. And there we have it. And that could be good enough. We could right click on this texture and go to its properties and choose unlit, rebuild, and look at that. Everything is shining, everything is bright. And for some applications that may be enough. Let's move this over to here and subtract it. So we have another one. And we're not going to select the unlit. Let's do the special lit. Now for special lit, we'll need a special lit brush, or special lit light rather. So I'm going to Control D and duplicate that. Bring it here. And I'm going to double click it. Go to its lighting, special lit. True. Now let's change the color drastically just to see the effect. Okay. Rebuild. Now look at that. It changed the color of that window, but since it's special lit and that surface is special lit, it's the only thing affected by that color. Now there's potential there, isn't there? So let's think about how can we really do something here. All right, so we have this room, that room. Let's keep this way, but we want to make a change to this light. Let's really ramp up the brightness. Say something like 160. If we rebuild, we can see that does something, but I want to change the radius. I want to make it a little lower because the radius determines how far the light impacts. So it's really bright and then it begins to get a little dimmer as it goes. If we decrease that, then the effect of the highest brightness will be limited. We don't really see it though because they're special lit, so we need to change that. Let's take it off. Back to false. On our surface properties, we'll change that. Rebuild. All right, so see now we're definitely seeing something here that it's affecting everything because now the light is no longer regulated or relegated to just the special lit section. So let's move it in a little bit. really, let's make it bright. And let's make the radius a little smaller. I want to laser focus it. And of course, it's personal preference. Let's move it over to the window pane, duplicate it, move it over to the window pane. So you see what's happening there? How it's a real bright hot spot there and a little bit dimmer here. And that's kind of what we see in windows, especially windows that are colored. All right, so let's pull it out into the room, bring some effect into the room. We'll duplicate both of those, drag the lights out a little bit. Of course, they're not going to work well the way they're set up right now, so we need to open up their properties. Let's reduce the brightness some. We're not changing the color, but we're going to reduce the brightness just so we don't get a real bright hot spot. And let's increase the radius so the light begins to cascade into the rest of the room. And it does so, smoother. And this may not make a lot of sense right now, but as you work on it, you'll begin to see it. And you can apply this to many applications. It doesn't have to be a window. It could be a light fixture in the ceiling. It could be a light fixture down here. It could be a torch, whatever you want. We just want to think about how light works naturally. So it's really bright at its focus here at the point of origin. And the point of origin is this window because the sunlight's hitting it and casting in. And as it dissipates in throughout the room, it begins to be softer and softer. So, and of course, it's personal interpretation too. Somebody may look at this and say, well, you're doing it wrong. And it's up to them. I'm going to just duplicate one, light properties. I'm going to bring it way down, maybe 30, and I'm going to bring the light radius up, maybe something like that. And actually, we could even move this around if we wanted to. And just so we get a sense, let's delete that default light there. Come in and rebuild. See that difference? Let's select all these lights. You'll notice brightness is not there because they each have a different brightness setting. So, but we're going to go to the color and let's turn it to a yellow, just so it matches the window better. And look at that. Let's try it out. So see, here's our other room with just a single light, no source. Look at that. Here's the one where it's just unlit and it's doing all the work without a light. And here's the one with our special lights. And somebody may say, well, I don't need all that, but I think after a while and with tweaking, you can really get a nice effect. And you can even come in and subtract just these areas here and make it where only that glass is really affected. But, it's up to you. All right, I think that'll do it for this tutorial. I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for watching.